Good luck.
Thank you.
in the sport of NHRA drag racing, and that's what it's all about, that one-on-one interaction, just like a rider on a motorcycle. And sometimes it's about two wheels. That is 400 horsepower on two wheels that will roll across the scales at under 650 pounds. That will include the rider, and that weight can vary depending on the four-cylinder inline Suzuki engine or the V-twin model. High RPM launches will allow these bikes to accelerate within the first 60 feet in just over 1 second, most equipped with 6-speed transmission, and that allows a rider to get through 5 gears before the 8th mile. The man of such prolific success over the last 2 years, Gaige Herrera, has our attention.
In this session is based on the qualifying results from Q2. If you
were with us last night, you know that the Matt Smith Racing motorcycles chose to skip that session. Now the exception here is that Matt and John Hall are both in the Too Fast Too Tasty challenge. They can go to the back of the line, but Brandon, I knew I'd do that at least once, and Angie Smith are going to fire things off. Angie, the Denso, Stockton, MSR Buick, who yesterday reset the track speed record in the first qualifying session, only to watch Gaige Herrera obliterate in the evening. And Brandon Litton making his pro stock motorcycle debut this weekend. He looked pretty good yesterday with the 707. Brandon Litton cracked the throttle early, goes 7:14 at only 164 miles per hour. Brandon will stay 11. Angie improves all the way up to the number 4 spot with a 6:76.5, 2:01.43, a track speed record for Angie Smith. And we check in with Bruno. This young man is getting his confidence back, and when Mason McGay is confident and on, he is a dangerous driver in pro stop. Gianna Evaristo on the left side, the Scrappers. For Gianna, 684 is not an improvement. Same for Kawakami. He will stay 12. Gianna will stay 9. And once again, I know that got kind of rushed there, but Angie Smith has recaptured the track speed record in pro stock motorcycle at 201.4 miles per hour. For Matt Smith Racing. Now, I will tell you, I talked to the Iranas yesterday and asked them how that 10-pound weight break affected them, and they said it will not. They simply do not have 10 pounds to so, Junior, they're kind of left in the same spot as they feel like they were before. Hector Jr., the first man to 200 on a pro stock motorcycle, his father still actively rides, competed earlier this year, stands behind the motorcycle now, and off to the side, world champion. Chris Boston, one of the Kulungian bikes this year, his teammate. When your fuel sounds like Jabba the Hutt belching on the starting line, runs. Tim Kulungian is not happy with where Chase is. Get him over. More. Reigning NHRA Rookie of the Year, Chase Van Sant, riding for Tim Kulungian, and tuned to Jerry Savoie to the World Championship. And Steve Johnson. They went back to the old generation, Suzuki bike. 196. Steve Johnson improves into the 70. Welcome back, Stevie J. Stays number 5 with a 679.2 at 196. Hey, Jock. Just gonna throw this out there, but I think it might have been the body.
So he is the 6-time Mission Foods World Champion in Pro Stock Motorcycle. Here comes Matt Smith. And over on the right-hand side for Redzilla and Benson Hines in his rookie season, going to try to battle his way to a Mission Foods final round, Mr. Richard Gersten. The Buell Master, 6-time world champion.
the finals. The Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. Better reaction time, better performance, rides away from that Vance & Hines Suzuki. Richard goes 676, 9 and 199. Matt Smith goes to the finals of Mission Foods. Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. He has won the last two that he has been in.
Racetrack for Denso, he is a U.S. Nationals winner. Ladies and gentlemen, get loud for John Hall! And over on the right-hand side is the points leader. He's the reigning world champion for Vance & Hines and Revzilla. Here he comes, your defending race winner, Gaige Herrera!
Vance & Hines got Matt Smith Racing, but this is a rematch of the Mission Foods Too Fast Too Tasty Semi in Norwalk, which John Hall won on a hole shot. On a hole shot. The last time he in fact, Gaige has not gotten out of the semi-final round of the Too Fast Too Tasty Challenge since Chicago, when he beat John Hall and his teammate Richard Gadsden. 3 consecutive semi-final losses. Gaige has obviously been in every Too Fast Too Tasty Challenge because he's won every event on the tour since last fall. Reigning world champion, Vance & Hines, Revzilla Suzuki, and John Hall, Denso, Brakes, MSR Mule. Can John Hall slay the giant again? Gaige Herrera for the win. 683.8, 198 for John Hall. Gaige Herrera was vulnerable. He was there for the beating. He would have lost to both of the other semifinalists, but he had enough to beat John Hall. Gaige Herrera, Matt Smith. The final round, motorcycle fans long for every week. They're going to get it here today in the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. Another look as they race down the quarter-mile Pacific Raceways. Gaige Herrera gets there first by 25 thousandths of a second. Gaige and Matt heading to the final round. And Brandon Litton, the 18-year-old in his pro stock motorcycle debut for Matt Smith Racing. Now that's Gen 1 mule. There's a couple of them here this weekend, Litton and Hector Romano Jr. Motorcycles just got 10-pound weight break. Matt said he knew this young man just licensed with us recently. Onto this bike and go to Seattle and do a little racing. Brandon is from North Carolina. Coming to the weekend and only made 4 quarter-mile passes on a pro stock bike out. Basically made the 6 runs he needed for his license, but his 2 runs so far look smooth. And Ichi Kawakami. 7:18 for Litton at 184 miles per hour. As this bike starts to move over, Ichi goes 7:16 at 185 miles per hour. Neither of them improved. Let's hear from your pro stock Too Fast Too Tasty champion.
GHG, Mellon, all the guys at Elite Motorsports, and all our great partners, and let's build on this and go into race day.
Aaron Stanfield is on a heater right now. Pro stock car. Here comes Hector Romano Jr. and Gianna Evaristo. Trappers, Denso, Valley Services, and Gianna. Getting ready to go to her home track. Take a look at the Pro Stock Motorcycle All-Star Call-Out points standings. To 200 miles per hour for Gianna, and she improves. A 693.6, 195 for Hector. Hector gets bumped down to 10. Gianna moves up to number 7. And we go to the top end where Bruno Masso catches up with your number 1 qualifier in Pro Stock. Because it looked like he cut a pretty good light. Sure looked at me like Chris really crushed the tree when he was up there practicing this one.
He says he crushed it, Jason.
Of course he did. 008, all right. It's cutting it a little tight. Angie Smith and John Hall, pair of Matt Smith Racing Fuels. Denso on both sides of the racetrack. Of course, the folks at Brakes responsible to keep everyone safe on John Hall's machine. As well, former U.S. Nationals champion. And Angie Smith, the track speed record holder, she reclaimed that throne earlier today. And we've already seen performances quicker than what John Hall just ran. By his teammate Gianna Evarista. I think there's a chance John Hall could try to jump up into the top half of the field here. The field Pro Stock Motorcycle here this weekend. It's been a couple of nights. Mark Amerson didn't make the trip. does not improve. Angie goes 6.799 at 200.4 miles per hour. Neither motorcycle improves. I gotta tell you, when I saw 105 pop up for John Hall, I thought, here we go. Fell off on the top end. Pair for the, and then we're going to roll into alcohol eliminations. Richard Gadsden, Vance 9 Suzuki. Folks at Revzilla, currently your number 4 qualifier. The rookie in Pro Stock Motorcycle taking on the reigning. Chase Van Sant. 6.809 to 198, Richard Gadsden. They will stay 2 and 4. And Gaige Herrera and Matt Smith to be the final pair in Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. Wow. Work stock set, Trey Butcher Trucking, that is Matt Smith, Outlaw Mile High Beer. Tasty Challenge has not exactly been friendly to Gaige this year, even though he's qualified for everyone, obviously. He won the first 2, but in Bristol, Richmond, and Norwalk, he couldn't get out of the first round. Matt Smith knocked him down twice in that run, and was the winner of the Too Fast, Too Tasty in both Bristol. Miles per hour. Matt Smith goes 201.43. I do believe that is the second fastest run in the history of this track, behind his wife earlier today. But Gaige Herrera with his 3rd Mission Foods, Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge win of 2024 and the world champion back on top.
Evaristo on the starting line here, the Scrappers Racing, Matt Smith Racing, Denso, Buell with its rumbling V-twin engine. Johnson, a 400ths near starting line advantage, but he's having to move the motorcycle around a whole lot at the finish line stripe. It is going to be Gianna Evaristo, 673.3 at 201 miles an hour, defeats a 686.2.
Well, for a while there, a few seconds, as a matter of fact, it didn't look like Gianna was going to be able to catch Steve Johnson. He got about 400ths of a second jump off of the starting line. He was 200ths of a second slower by 330, but you can see that her bike is just getting that front tire up, and she was able to deal with the bumps on the track and how the bike was just getting that front tire up, and that really showed it had a good amount of horsepower, but she was able to keep herself tucked and drive around or ride around Steve Johnson by the 8th mile.
Let's look at the rest of our first round lineup. It'll be Angie Smith and John Hall. They are both part of the Matt Smith Racing team. These two teammates will battle it out here, the 5 and 8 positions. Richard Gadsden, who is teammates with Gaige Herrera, will take on Chris Bostic of the Tide sponsored machine. That'll be Matt Smith and longtime rival Hector Arana Jr. And finally, Chase Van Zandt, Brandon Litton. Litton making his first professional NHRA Pro Stock motorcycle start. And Gaige Herrera will take on Ichi Kawakami in that pairing. On the starting line now is John Hall and Angie Smith, both wearing the Denso name on the rear fenders of their motorcycles and the Matt Smith Racing logos on the front. The Denso on board here for Angie, who showed her resilience last year, had a horrible crash in St. Louis, bounced back, and was racing just a couple of races later in Las Vegas.
And she's got a good machine. The last couple of times that she was on the track for her qualifying sessions, she was able to run well into the 70s.
And big trouble for Angie. Coming off the starting line, the motorcycle seemed to stick the tire. It jumped up on the wheelie bar, and it was going to be a John Hall runaway here. 686.5 at 197 miles an hour. The hopping is not good.
It was a very good reaction time. You could almost hear the engine labor. You can see her wide open throttle. She gets the clutch out, but yeah, and there's the tire shake right there. She actually did a good job getting the bike settled down and back on the throttle. But let's get another listen to everything that was going on the launch for Angie. You can hear the engine, the shake. You can see the tire shake, but what she did was she short shifted it. She got it into another gear. That calmed the machine down. The problem was, at that point, her opponent had too big of a lead.
Richard Gadsden, the Revzilla, Motul, Vance and Hines, Suzuki Hayabusa, wearing their familiar orange and black leathers, matching the orange and black paint. The Surf RV Resort sponsoring Chris Bostic here in the starting line. Bostic racing with a 4-cylinder Toyota engine, a 4-cylinder Suzuki engine, as is Gadsden. A massive starting line reaction. Does he have more than 300s to hold off Gadsden's huge top end charge with? And the answer is he doesn't. 674.8 at 198 for Richard Gadsden, as Chris Bostic goes 683.1 at 195, but he certainly made a case for himself on the starting line. Gianna Evaristo is with Bruno Massel at the big end.
Gianna Evaristo is still smiling. She can't even contain herself how excited she is after the run, and for good reason. A 673 at well over 201 miles an hour, the quickest run of the weekend and maybe the fastest. Did you feel like you had that kind of performance under your belt this weekend?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, Matt and I talked about it all weekend long, that this bike is fast. This bike has always been fast from the beginning, and it's really, we've just been feeding it power little by little to help me, you know, get comfortable. And, you know, this just goes to show our performance. And, you know, this is definitely just the beginning. I owe this all to the team, MSR, Scrappers Racing, Denso, everybody that comes out and supports us. And, you know, thank you to my team, family, and the fans, of course. Thank you guys very much.
Caught a moment this morning. Gianna Evaristo and her husband had been exercising here at the racetrack very early. They captured a selfie at the starting line, Tony. That might have been the key. The starting line morning selfie may have put them over the top. Matt Smith, number 2 in the points right now. We call this the Iron Man motorcycle. Denso coloration, and you can see the GetTrex logo for Hector Arana Jr., the GetTrex on board. Both V-twin racers, both multi-generation racers. Their dads drag racers that led them into this sport. Fierce competitors they have been for more than a decade. I mean, a huge, huge lead advantage for Arana, but it appears to all but have evaporated. It did. 670 beats a 701, 202.64. That is a new track record. That is low ET. That is a booming run. It really is. 202. To think about it for a second, when you ride your mountain bike at 27, 30 miles an hour, if you can get to that speed, how much wind resistance. You can see what these pro stock motorcycle riders do. They make their body part of the aerodynamic package of this, and for Matt Smith, he had the power to go along with it. So Smith with the quickest run of the meet, Smith with the fastest pro stock motorcycle run in the history of this drag strip, has now set a very high bar of performance for the rest of this field to chase after, including Brandon Litton, who will be coming up next to Chase Van Zandt. Litton, a great story, has dedicated himself to make this very first pro stock motorcycle start in the world of NHRA drag racing. He has seized the opportunity and ridden the bike very well. Across the racetrack, Chase Van Zandt, the Trick Tool Suzuki, tuned by Tim Kulungian. The Rookie of the Year last year in NHRA drag racing, had the lowest average reaction time, not only of pro stock motorcycle, of any professional category over the course of the year. He does not want Litton to take any of his spotlight away here. He lived that rookie life once. He does not want to fall prey to it here. Credit where it's due. Litton got out first, but the motorcycle spun the tire, and Chase Van Zandt will run down. Litton's up by the center line. He ran over the blocks at the finish line stripe. Litton's able to keep the bike upright, but it was drifting across the racetrack. Van Zandt, a 673, moves him on.
So Matt Smith just went to lower the boom on his teammate John Evaristo, going out there the quickest and fastest run in the history of Pacific Raceways of their motorcycle. Did you feel like the potential was out there to put up those kind of numbers today?
Yeah, the air's 3% better. So, I mean, I knew that it was going to be better. The sun popped out, you know, with all this, the little sprinkles that we had in the Rex and Funny car. But all in all, I was hoping it wasn't going to affect our start line that much, because that's where we have our problems with 60 foot. And with this Denzo Outlaw Beers, Smith Trucking, Greg Butch Trucking, everybody helps us. IGTG's in the house this weekend. Thank y'all. We appreciate everything.
So Matt Smith, rock and roll into round number 2. Meanwhile, Brandon Litton, let's take a look here, Tony.
Yeah, well, the drift towards the inside of the lane started early in the run for Brandon, and he was trying to use some body English, but at some degree he knew there was no bringing the bike back, and you know there were the blocks in the way, but he had to realize those are foam blocks, and that instantly disqualified him. But at that stage he was well out of this race. We apologize for that graphic illustration of foam destruction, but sometimes these things happen in this sport. Ichi Kawakami, who came from Japan to compete this year in pro stock motorcycle, will take on the tallest order to have, not only in pro stock motorcycle, but in NHRA drag racing right now, in Gaige Herrera. Once again, the same colors as Richard Gadsden. It's Revzilla, Motul, Vance and Hines, Mission Foods. We have talked about win streaks ending in unlikely ways. Kawakami seeking his first professional round win in NHRA drag racing. And you never know how these things end. It won't end on this run. Kawakami goes 15 thousandths red. Gaige Herrera turns on a win light as easy as you and I have just taken our next breath. 674.4 at 199. He's still way behind Matt Smith in performance, so that is maybe looming on the horizon later on today as those two trains continue to run toward each other, seemingly on the same track. So the Pro Stock Motorcycle class has ended its first round, and we have moved on to round number 2 as we get a look at our competition ladder here. Gaige Herrera will race against Gianna Evaristo. It'll be Van Zandt and Hall. It'll be Matt Smith and Richard Gadsden as those two sides of the ladder begin. More than likely, it will increase the power. Chase Van Zandt taking on John Hall. Van Zandt on his Suzuki-powered motorcycle has a slight 13 thousandths advantage at the starting line, and that results in a 674.5 beating a 687.5.
Hall's bike slowing off of performance. He was in that race pretty tight to the 8th mile, but it was Van Sant driving away on what we would call the back half of the racetrack, the last 660 feet. So Chase Van Sant, we know, has moved himself into the semifinals. Matt Smith and Richard Gadsden will be up, as will Gaige Herrera and Gianna Evaristo. So Chase Van Sant making, once again, his presence known as he has done so many times this year. Gianna Evaristo, one of the riders that has a basically favorable record. There's nobody that has a great record against this guy, of course, because he's barely ever lost. His first season in NHRA drag racing, Gaige Herrera, long before he started this win streak, was a quiet one. It was a training season before the Vance & Hines team hired him. Gianna Evaristo has her own fantastic story, winner of the 2019 NHRA Finals, but what an evolution this rider has been on, especially this season.
Well, if in fact you are just as good as your last run, Gianna comes into this round 1/100th of a second better based on their first round performance.
Remember, the longest streak of wins of rounds and races in NHRA history is on the line now every time he stages the bike. Gaige is 37 green. Gianna was 87 green. We'll find out if there's enough performance down there. Gaige on a whole shot, 673.7, beats a 6.704, 200.32 miles an hour. Look at the speed for Gianna Evaristo, 203.95 miles an hour. That is another new track record of speed performance here in one of the fastest runs of the history of the class, and it doesn't result in a win light.
Oh, well, that's the good news for Gianna. That big speed, that elapsed time, but that doesn't mean much because Gaige Herrera was able to get a nice jump off of the starting line. It seemed that Gianna was having maybe some difficulty staging the bike, having to roll it forward. That may have created a little bit of a distraction, but this is one of the things that Gaige Herrera does so well. You have to try to beat the machine. You also have to try to beat the rider who does so well.
Gaige Herrera will have a bye run into the final round. Richard Gadsden and Matt Smith now line up side by side. Smith, who comes into this round with that crushing 6.709, clearly the tune-up that was placed into the motorcycle, the team motorcycle of Gianna Evaristo. And Richard Gadsden riding the Revzilla Suzuki of the Vance & Hines race team, the Denso wheelie bar cam for Matt Smith. Note the vibration. The V-twin engine vibrates very violently at low RPM. One of the things the riders all talk about, it's less balanced than a 4-cylinder inline engine like the Suzuki. And you can see Gadsden's out of the gate first by 200ths, but here comes Matt Smith like a freight train across the 8th mile. Smith, 673.5 and 201. Gadsden, and off the pace, 679.
Well, I'm sure Matt Smith is thanking his lucky charms. Thank the horsepower that allowed him to drive around Richard Gadsden. And you can see, based on that camera that he had mounted on the wheelie bar, what a reaction time advantage does. It's very hard to detect off the starting line, but for Matt Smith, he gave up a couple of hundredths early, but he had the power. And again, this is the torque that this V-twin engine has. It just has more torque, less RPM than the higher revving Suzuki, but there's that front wheel up and there's the balance, and you can see Matt Smith really start to tuck when aerodynamics come into play. Dallas Glenn and Matt Hartford battled in the last round. Dallas Glenn came out ahead, but Bruno Massel corralled them both at the top end after their run. Fortunately, Matt Smith has had to climb off his Denso motorcycle and failed to start in his matchup against Chase Van Sant. The final round will be Chase Van Sant and Gaige Herrera, the two hot-blooded and very talented young riders in this category. 689 and 197 for Van Sant, a slower run than likely he planned to make. He may have shut it down early per his crew chief. So you can see the disappointment for Smith. It wouldn't fire. They had the starter plugged in. They were spinning the engine over. Would not ignite. Tony, it can be an ignition problem. Usually it's the crank sensor or something like that. It could be all sorts of things, and even compounded his frustration when he looked at the scoreboard and saw the elapsed time from Chase Van Sant. That was a very beatable run. It's really Matt Smith that has had the best bike this weekend.
So Chase Van Sant, the Trick Tool Suzuki, rolls up next to the man who will be, or try to be, his foil. Jordan Vandergriff is with Matt Smith.
Matt Smith, you were struggling on the starting line. What happened there?
Interview with Jordan Vandergriff.
Same thing as last year. We got to semifinals and the bike wouldn't start up. I don't know. We got to get back and look, but very disappointed that we didn't at least have a shot of running Chase.
I think we would have got.
It is certainly an uplifting thing for John. It's an uplifting thing and a reminder to all of us how much people love this sport and the outsized effect that man has had on it. Gaige Herrera and Chase Van Zandt are engaged now in the final round of Pro Stock Motorcycle. We have drawn up all these different scenarios, Tony. Does it end with the chain falling off Gaige's bike? Does it end with them getting the sign switches on the way to the staging lanes? Or could it end with a very capable competitor in Chase Van Zandt, the young man who has never won a race before, Gaige Herrera, who has piled him up like cordwood?
If it ends, it's going to end with one of the young rising stars in the pro stock bike category, and that's been Chase Van Sant. And I had a hunch about him when he came onto the scene as a rookie, and they put a pretty good bike underneath him. And believe it or not, in terms of performance, he can compete with Gaige Herrera. He can also compete with him off that starting line.
You cannot judge books by their cover. You cannot judge people by their initial appearance. But we can start to make some ideas and formulations about them. And you and I both agree, we first saw Chase Van Zandt come onto this scene. This is a polished, this is a fit, this is a focused, this is a guy who is not here simply to say that he rides a motorcycle and to go hang out in the pits. This is a guy whose mind has been locked in on winning. He's not looked away from it. It hasn't happened for him yet, but he is equipped to do it.
Nope, there's talent there. He's very well spoken, and he's very marketable. Seems very professional, and it just seemed that over the last several races, he's just continued to get better and better. And when you look at his performance on the machine, he doesn't do anything crazy. He doesn't allow the bike to get out of the groove. It seems that he is in control of this machine, and he's very consistent off the starting line. And of course, that's one of the strengths of Gaige Herrera. He has the best machine. It's been the quickest and fastest, but if anyone can challenge him, it is Chase. We thought it might be Matt Smith, and Chase made it to that final via the breakage for Matt Smith.
Chase Van Zandt's crew chief is Tim Kulungian, one of the most cerebral men in the entire sport of drag racing. A man you could talk to about how to build an engine. You could talk to him about aerodynamics. You could talk to him about Eastern philosophy. He will have a take on all of it. And that is the crew chief for Gaige Herrera, Andrew Hines. He is the Dr. Frankenstein, and he is going to watch what has been his perfect monster attack this drag strip. The lead, Van Zandt 17, Gaige Herrera is 0.25.
He's quick around the track.
It looks like he might have enough, and at the finish line stripe, it's Chase Van Zandt. The streak ends in 11 races. 672 at 201 miles an hour by 43 thousandths of a second. And that is how you get a first career win.
Yeah, that's right. Look back, Chase, because he was in your rearview mirror, and that's how you do it. That is textbook. You come to the starting line, you keep your marbles, you keep your composure, do not allow the pressure. You're on national TV. You just took down what no one else could, and when they had Gaige Herrera exactly where they wanted him, the rider was not able to finish the job off, but Chase Van Zandt did everything right. He had the bike, he had the talent on the starting line, and he earned this win.
You can see Van Zandt, that deep breath, almost not deflating, but letting all of those pressures and tensions out. His head now bobbing. He is an emotional kid, and he is getting a hug now. And Gaige Herrera is certainly not disbelieving what he's seeing, but the win arrow in that time slip is not facing a direction he has seen since Maple Grove of last year.
Well, I'm sure we haven't seen the last of Gaige Herrera by any stretch.
No.
That Vance and Hines team, they're such a powerhouse. However, Matt Smith has made so much progress over the last couple of races, but so has Chase Van Zandt. And it was a bigger surprise to when you saw their performance at the end of last year, at the beginning of the year, that they just didn't have it. They didn't find the sweet spot, and that has changed.
Delivering in the clutch, Bruno. It is what premier level athletes do, and Chase Van Zandt just did it.
Well, Chase Van Zandt has in his hand what he has want for all too long. You did what seemed to be the unthinkable here today. You beat that unstoppable force in Gaige Herrera. Not only did you beat him on the track, but on the tree. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's unreal. You know, Jerry Savoie told me I was going to win one of these things, and he said when I did, I was going to cry. So, Jerry, I'm sorry. I'm fighting it back, but I'm not going to do it. Man, I can't thank this team enough, the whole White Alligator Racing team. I mean, Jerry for giving me the opportunity, Tim Kulungian for allowing me to be out here and all his hard work, Keith Nichols, man, you're the man. You absolutely work his butt off to make this motorcycle go fast. Man, my dad, Trick Tools, Transfluid, Ready Parts. Man, JC Speed Shop, this is just unreal. I can't believe it.
Congratulations. Let it soak in.
Thank you.
Chase Van Zant's parents, you saw them moments ago watching on the starting line. For Tim Kulungian, since he has assumed kind of control and really, I believe, ownership of this team, it's their first victory. It's enormous. Tony, watch again. Off the starting line and never looked back. He was better off the line, better in 60 feet, not by much. It was a good race. It was a close race. You can see Chase just start that slight drift to the outside of the lane, but there's plenty of rubber down at this stage of the game. It was Chase Van Sant, or rather Gaige Herrera, that seemed to know that he was in trouble. You could see him just take a look over to the right, and that's never a good sign, especially when you see a yellow front end. Everything about that pair is what professional drag racing is supposed to be about. Everything, top to bottom. And there's the celebration. Gaige Herrera's, or rather Chase Van Sant's father on the starting line. The team exuberant as they should be. Now it is time for the